Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 2023 Hyundai Ioniq 5N. So this started production in 2021, with this version of the Ioniq 5 starting production in 2023, and much like the Kia EV6 GT, which we've already reviewed, the base Ioniq 5s can get anywhere between 168 to 321 horsepower, but this version, with the boost mode, which is activated for 10 seconds, can get up to 641 horsepower and 567 pounds-feet of torque from its 84 kilowatt-hour series of batteries and 2 electric motors, one for each end. So yeah, that boost mode though is only, like I said, for 10 seconds, so that adds an extra 40 horsepower over the standard 601 horsepower that this has. But for whatever reason, this game has decided to have that 641 all of the time, so yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt. But still, that means even without the boost mode, you're getting 280 horsepower extra over the most powerful next version of this car. So yeah, that is mightily impressive, and this being an N version, it's had a massive overhaul in other areas as well, outside of just the power output. So it's now got larger air intakes, it's got extended wheel arches for the wider track, meaning that the car is now 2 inches wider than the standard car. It's also 0.8 of an inch lower in terms of ride height. It's got strengthened body due to having extra welds. It's got a rear diffuser and additional bodywork, including a rear spoiler. So yeah, and it looks all really rather nice, to be honest. I like the red accenting that it's got going on, reminds me of the original Golf GTI. And yeah, overall it just looks like a really cool car. To be honest, I was expecting this to be in the previous update when the Retro Wave one was out, because this does look like a retro kind of car in terms of its looks overall. But I'm just glad it's in the game eventually anyway, quite frankly, because it's a fantastic looking thing. And yeah, it's easily one of my favourite EVs that have been released in the last few years or so. And yeah, continues on inside in terms of being a pretty good looking vehicle overall. Again, like the Kia EV6, no giant screen in the middle. It's just got a nice tasteful amount of screens going on. You've still got physical buttons to touch as well. Again, massive positive, because there's nothing worse than, you know, having to fiddle through screens while, you know, you're trying to drive somewhere. And yeah, it's just an overall nice looking interior, to be honest. Probably a little bit on the bland side in terms of it just being black and silver, but could be worse. On top of that, you've also got plenty of rear legroom, again, because you've got all of the batteries and motors underneath the car. You know, you've got a flat floor, so you've got plenty of legroom and plenty of headroom on top of all of that. And even though the boot isn't as big as the Kia EV6, it's still a pretty sizable one, as you can see. And yeah, again, low loading floor and a flat one at that as well. Now, like the EV6 though, we also have no frunk, which again is a big shame really. Doesn't, you know, say to me that this car has been well built into, well designed in terms of packaging. You know, because, you know, you look at likes of Rivian, for instance, they have a front, they have a pickup truck bed at the back, they also have, you know, other cubby holes and whatnot working inside, whereas this feels a lot more conventional in terms of its design. Yes, it's got batteries and motors and electric motors, but in terms of the way that everything's packaged, it does come across like a more normal combustion engine vehicle. So yeah, that's a little bit of a shame. Also, it's heavier than the EV6 at 4,881 pounds, which is a full 86 pounds heavier than that EV6, but we do obviously have extra power on the go. Got nearly 70 extra horsepower and 22 extra pounds-feet of torque. So yeah, that's obviously going to help offset some of that weight. Crucially though, this does have 50-50 weight distribution, so it should handle its weight a little bit better than the Kia EV6 does. So yeah, but let's get out there and see how well it does handle that weight on the open road. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's once again see what the car can do before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it round the track. So yeah, with even more power and more torque than the EV6, you'd be forgiven thinking this is quicker to 60. It's actually not. It's slightly slower. I imagine it's because of the extra weight off the line does not help. But as you can see, it's quicker in terms of getting up to its speed at nearly 139 miles an hour there, whereas I think the EV6 was about 134. So yeah, good deal faster in terms of, you know, speed when it eventually gets going. It's just that off the line, due to that bit of extra weight, it's just a little bit slower going, you know, off the line. So yeah, which is a bit of a shame. But one thing this does have over the EV6 is a fun mode, and you probably can see it. It's that bottom left right bit near the speedometer there. We can hit the left button and then we get it in drift mode. So all 641 horsepower is now going to those rear wheels, so you can slide it about all you wish and the car will take it, quite frankly. Obviously it does slide around in all-wheel drive version, but does it even more so in this mode. And yeah, it does take some getting used to, because obviously, you know, most cars nowadays do not have that amount of power going for the rear wheels, and those that do are generally supercars or hypercars. So yeah, to get an EV that is doing this is pretty fun, to be honest. Now obviously the EV6 was rear biased in terms of its horsepower, but it couldn't, you know, switch off the front motor or divert all of the power to the rear wheels at will. So yeah, that's pretty much the party piece for this car, to be honest. But if you want to get it off the line in any kind of reasonable speed, or, you know, handle it properly, then you will want to switch it to all-wheel drive mode. So that's definitely what we'll be on when we get it around the track. So yeah, still, it's really fun to drive like this, and yeah, it's a nice little hack to get some easy drift scores or drift points on the go. But yeah, we will keep it in all-wheel drive mode because that's where this car's going to be best in terms of putting its power down, in terms of handling, and obviously it would help in terms of all weather conditions as well. But yeah, in terms of rivals, we're mid A class, so slightly higher in terms of PI than over the EV6. And yeah, if we go into favourites and compare the two, as you can see in terms of stats with the Ioniq here, we're overall better. The braking is better, the handling is slightly better, the speed is slightly better, the acceleration is better, and so is the launch, as you can see. So yeah, 5.8 speed to 5.7 speed, 4.4 handling to 4.3, and 5.6 acceleration to 4.6. Launch is better by 1.2, and the braking is also better by 0.4. Off-road capability is slightly worse, but that doesn't really matter for a car like this. At the end of the day, how often are you going to be taking a car like this off-road? Not much. Yes, it is a crossover SUV, but yeah, the SUV part is only really in terms of marketing. It's not really in terms of actually going off-road. It probably could do some mild off-roading, no doubt about that, but given this is even lower than the standard version, I really wouldn't recommend it. So yeah, but overall I am impressed by this car, even more so than the EV6, to be honest, which we'll obviously talk about when we get it around this track. But let's first see what it sounds like, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, as you can see there, it's very easy to get this car sliding around even in all-wheel drive mode. So yeah, if you want to drift it but you don't want to, you know, risk spinning out, and keep it in all-wheel drive mode, and you will still get some good drifts out on it. And in terms of handling, yeah, it definitely does feel sharper than the EV6. The brakes are definitely better. It does feel a little bit more nimble and a little bit more playful. Now granted, obviously it does weigh a little bit more, but I feel like this feels a little bit just smaller, to be honest. Maybe it is a little bit you know, skinnier, but I don't know. But regardless, it's the way it feels, and the way it feels is more nimble. And yeah, and with that extra power on the go, you can launch out of corners a lot quicker as well. So yeah, but like I said, 0 to 60 time is actually slightly lower on this than the EV6, as this can do 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, which is 0.1 of a second slower than the Kia. But it slaughters the Kia in terms of 0 to 100 time. It can do it in 7.5, which is nearly half a second quicker than the Kia, and it's a couple of mile an hour quicker at the top end at 163 miles an hour. So yeah, but at the end of the day, I feel like this car is able to use its power more than the Kia is, just because it's a bit more confidence inducing in terms of its handling and braking. And even though it's not as practical as the Kia, because it does look like it has a smaller boot, generally I just find this to be a lot more fun to drive, and the way it looks in particular is just a lot cooler, just looks a lot better, to be honest. Doesn't, again, like the Kia, it doesn't look like anything else on the road, but it also looks like nothing else on the road while also looking cool at the same time, especially with its 80s retro inspired, you know, rear lights and front lights and general body shape. So yeah, overall a fantastic car, and I'm really glad it's in the game, alongside the Kia as well, for that matter, to be honest, because I've kind of wanted both of them to be in the game. The Kia primarily because I've seen it 100 or so times now before the start of a film at the cinema, and also this because I've just really wanted the Ioniq 5 in. Even the standard version would have done, but to put the N version in, which is obviously the ultimate version of this car, as it is the ultimate version of every other N version of Hyundai's vehicles, is just a real treat. So yeah, get this car by getting 20 points in the festival playlist. Doesn't take at all that much time to get it, and at the end of the day those 20 points also contribute towards getting the Kia as well. So yeah, 2 for 1 there in terms of getting the points, and it is well worth getting, as it's a hugely fun car and a really good looking one at that as well. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.